Good morning and welcome to the 11th Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Youth Parliament. Speaker of the Legislative Assembly and President of the Cayman Islands branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, Dr. Honourable W. McKeeva Bush, OBE, JP. Premier Honourable Alden McLaughlin, MBE, JP. Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Ezard Miller. Cabinet Ministers and fellow MLAs, youth parliamentarians, participating students, teachers and parents, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me distinct pleasure as chairperson of the Youth Parliament Organising Committee to make some opening remarks at this Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Youth Parliament. This is an event we hold annually where we celebrate our youth and their potential for our common future. It also marks the Cayman Islands' annual observance of Commonwealth Day. This is the 11th time that the Cayman Islands branch of the CPA has hosted this event, which aims to promote civic engagement, and each year it provides a hands-on practical experience for some of our own talented youth. This exercise gives us, the elected representatives of the people, an opportunity to pass on and foster an interest in public life among those who will take on the mantle of public representation in the future. We work to guide and inspire them, as well as to make them aware of the satisfaction and the challenges that come with being legislators in these islands. Many of us here in this honourable House and on the committee are ourselves first-time MLAs. As such, helping train the youth parliamentarians has been a positive experience for each of us and has reinforced and reiterated why we chose to become MLAs and serve our people in the community. Let me share some of the highlights of this year's Youth Parliament. We have 19 students, 11 girls and 8 boys, aged 14 through 19. All are high schoolers except for 5 who attend the University College of the Cayman Islands. Other learning institutions represented include Cayman Brack's Lehman E. Scott Senior High School and Grand Cayman's Clifton Hunter and John Gray High Schools, Cayman International School, and Triple C School. As always, the Youth Parliament mirrors our Parliament, with each student playing the roles of Speaker, Clerk, Sergeant-at-Arms, Premier, Leader of the Opposition, Cabinet Ministers, and members. There are also unelected members, such as the Deputy Governor, Head of the Civil Service, and the Attorney General. The students began meeting every Tuesday from 3rd of October last year and resumed after the Christmas holidays every Tuesday and Saturday in February this year. I mention this particularly to emphasize how much effort and dedication our young people have put in already to reach this point. The way the committee has set up the program is to enable students to learn from the expertise of seasoned parliamentarians and newer members in the House, as well as others from outside the Legislative Assembly. As such, they receive lectures from Honourable Ezard Miller, Mr. Alva Saku, veteran MLA and former Cabinet Minister Mr. Ard McLean, as well as more recently, former perspectives of Councillor David White, Mr. Kenneth Bryan, and myself, as well as former senior election official and current election trainer, Mr. Auric Connor, and Mrs. Danielle Roberts, and Mrs. Kimberly Kirkconnell from the Ministry of Education. I would also like to formally acknowledge and thank Mrs. Zena Marin-Chin and Ms. Deborah Broderick for their commitment to working with the students over the past 5 months. The students themselves were tasked with arriving at issues they wished to debate, and preparing their own debates on the pros or cons, the merits and demerits of the issues. This year, you will be happy to know that they have chosen two very lively and timely topics. Both of these are being brought as private member motions. Their presentation will call for distinct, pervasive skills and cogent and solid arguments in order to move the government bench to buy into the movers and seconders' proposals. Following the debate's conclusion, the participants will have the privilege of attending a reception hosted by the Honourable Speaker of the House, where they will receive certificates and plaques for their participation. Additionally, some students will also be given the opportunity to represent the Cayman Islands branch at the 43rd Regional CPA Conference, which is being held here in Grand Cayman in June. It is our hope that our youthful participants will carry this rich experience far into their futures, and I am sure we are witnessing the beginnings of some of our successful future politicians right here, right now. Indeed, I would like to go on record as saying that some of us who have guided them on that path have also learned much in the process. So much so, I have to suggest we should have a mechanism in place that allows us to regularly hear from our young people their views about topics that grip our community. In this regard, I would like to share an experience that I gained when I attended the 42nd CPA Regional Conference, which was held in St. Kitts last June, when I learned about the National Youth Parliament Association. They have mandated that youth parliament sittings are to be held every quarter to enable the public to hear from young people. In turn, the youth get the opportunity to propose government programs and policies and simultaneously promote open and honest discussion of national issues while creating a driving force to positive youth involvement in politics and the legislative process. As Councillor for Education and Youth, I would like to advocate for a similar body to be set up in the Cayman Islands for the continuing development of our youth parliamentarians throughout the year, subsequent to their leaving high school. And while in school, starting from primary education up in both public and private institutions, I would like to see more awareness about civics and public life raised through social studies. I would also like to encourage more participation from schools in our recurring youth parliament, as participation in some past instances has been higher, with as much as 25 or more students taking part. Finally, I would be remiss in my duties if I failed to mention, with our heartfelt gratitude, that the major sponsor in this year's Youth Parliament is local law firm Harney's. I wish our youth parliamentarians the best of participation and eagerly look forward to their debates today. Thank you. Okay, as we continue on with our program, I would first like to convey apologies from the Minister of Financial Services, the Honourable Tara Rivers, for her absence here today due to unforeseen circumstances. Okay, each participant for the opening ceremony will present as indicated on the program, except for one change. Her Majesty's Commonwealth Day message will be read by the Honourable Speaker of our Assembly prior to the Honourable Premier's declaring Youth Parliament open. Thank you.
shape the very future of our homeland for all of us. We mark their importance to us by hosting this youth parliament to groom them to better engage in public life. However, in the long term, we want to encourage them to aspire to join the highest public office in the Cayman Islands, taking up positions where they can serve our people, including the humblest citizen in our community. As president of the Cayman Islands branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, or CPA for short, let me emphasize that we in the local associations are committed to encouraging our young people in playing their part in public life. We want to make their voices heard. We want them to gain a better understanding of the important issues we face as a community. But most important of all, we want to elicit a representative viewpoint of our young people when we address those issues. And to do just that, the local CPA branch has embraced the medium of the youth parliament to reach out and engage our young people when we celebrate Commonwealth Day each year. This is an engagement we take very seriously, and a testament to our serious intent is the hours over months of preparation put in by MLAs on both sides of the House, as well as the legislative staff, led very ably by our own clerk, Mrs. Zena Marin Chin. Most of all, we note the dedication and long hours that our youth participants have put in over these weeks to make this youth parliament happen today. Even though only 19 of our youth are actively involved this year in learning more about our parliamentary democracy, they joined the ranks of other young persons who have already gone through this useful and I say very interesting exercise over the past several youth parliaments. I was pleased to be present in St. Kitts, with the two young people from Cayman who participated there. And you can believe, ladies and gentlemen, that they made their voices heard, that Cayman was well represented, and I think have good possibility for representing these islands, their districts, if they choose, from within these halls. They would have a bright future in representative politics. In turn, their involvement ensures that the Cayman Islands' potential human capital continues to grow strongly to take forward our vibrant parliamentary democracy into the future. As we saw in last year's general elections, our democracy is robust and continues to thrive and grow. And the more young people we can get interested in public life so that they get a fuller understanding of what it means and the many responsibilities an elected official must carry, the better all that is for the future of our islands. As we are aware, we join hands with other Commonwealth countries every year on the second Monday in March to celebrate the commonalities we share as members of a large and varied yet unified family. The young people of this family are at the core of celebrations this Commonwealth Day, with this theme this year as towards a common future. And this year's theme is linked to the theme for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meetings, as well as the Commonwealth Summit 2018, which are scheduled to take place in April 2018 in the United Kingdom, and where we will be represented by our head of government here. With this theme in view, the 10 girls and 9 boys from Cayman Brac and Grand Cayman in this year's Youth Parliament are set to debate 2 important topics that I hope you will agree are very meaningful to our community. One relates to education for youth, and the other to the residence criterion for all potential election contestants. And I'm happy about that one in particular because it's a view I've taken, but did not probably share enough with the public over my long years here. But I've always lived, I should say to the young parliamentarians, in the district I represented. And I still am in that spot. Not putting anything against any of the other ones. We are waiting to hear your decision. But we, all of us, our elected officials who have come here especially today, look forward to a lively, animated yet significant debate on these 2 topics by the bright and eager young persons who are waiting to take our places in the Parliament of this country, the Legislative Assembly. We wish them well. More importantly, as a result of participating in Youth Parliament, these talented young people will have gained a better understanding of how our Parliament works, its role in our democracy, and some of the rules and regulations under which we function here in our local assembly. I trust they will also get some idea, as I hinted before, about the diversity of people's expectations from legislators and the varied and demanding functions parliamentarians have to perform from the moment they get elected in a growing modern democracy. Unfortunately, young people, some are people, or older people, believe that it's such an easy job, that all we do up in here is to sit down and chat. And they never look past the fact that people wake us up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go search for a young person. Parents do that. They don't look to the fact of the many things that burden us because we are human too. Opposition and government, elected representatives. Unfortunately, some people don't see that and they believe that getting on a radio show is the best way to represent the country. That's not so. Don't you believe that? Hopefully one of these days you will experience some of that and you will remember the words of what the speaker said this morning. It is a tough job, but satisfying. Once you know that you have done all you can for the good of people, not looking for praise and glory, not going on radio shows, not going in the papers, but that on a one-to-one basis, as an elected representative, you have done your best for the people who elected you. So as president of our local CPA branch and chairman of the regional CPA executive, and that is because we are hosting this year the regional conference beginning on June 15th, and I do hope that some of you will find time to come and to listen to the debate of all members from the region on very important matters themed developing our local island or a small state. So I would like to thank all who have worked and donated their time to once again make the Youth Parliament happen in the Cayman Islands. My particular thanks go to the organizing committee, led by our able first-time legislator, Ms. Barbara Connolly, who is doing a good job, if I should say so from this vantage point, where nobody can contradict me. And our clerk, and comprising also MLAs, Mr. Bernie Bush, Mr. Alva Suku, Mr. Kenneth Bryan, and Mr. David White as the committee, but that committee is helped by others who join in with you to engage with you on matters to do with your discussions. We would like to thank them very much for their time. I would also like to register the local CPA branch's thanks and my thanks to local law firm Harness for becoming the main sponsor of this year's Youth Parliament. We really appreciate that they have jumped in there to give us some assistance, and I hope other law firms see it and take note. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to all of you, and I invite you to stay to the entire Youth Parliament. See and experience our youth at work here today, your children, our children, the future of our islands. Thank you all very much. It's on.
Huh?
It's on. Just speak.
You mean, I better not comment on that. Let me start over. Good morning, Madam Chairperson, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Premier. All of the protocol haven't been observed. I'm particularly pleased and honored and privileged to be asked to say a few words to you young parliamentarians this morning. I am confident that this experience will provide you, for the rest, will provide assistance, and that you will look back at this event and be grateful for having been given the opportunity to participate. I think you've had an opportunity to learn the rules of Parliament, and I also am uniquely aware of the amount of effort that you have put in to prepare yourselves for today. I congratulate you, and I want to say to you that don't stop here. I want to endorse the chairman of the committee, Ms. Barbara's recommendation that you develop the Youth Parliament into something that meets at least once quarterly. I would encourage you to participate in the debate on national issues, because at all times when we, the elected representatives here, make decisions, we are making decisions mostly about your future, not so much about ours, because most of us are on the other side of the mountain. So you need to be involved. We need to hear from you. I would encourage you, when you go back to your respective high schools, encourage inter-school debates on national issues, on matters that are before this Legislative Assembly. Develop a way that you can get that representation, your ideas, your contributions to us as legislators, so that we will be able to take your viewpoints into consideration when we are making decisions about your future. I noticed that some of you this morning are having a very nervous twitch. Don't worry about that. If you are not nervous when you get up to make a public speech, you haven't prepared, and the speech is of no significance. But I have a little trick I use that I call the 4-second rule. When you get up to speak, inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, and exhale for 4 seconds. By that time, the butterflies in your stomach about giving the speech will have had time to get information, and then you can move on. But once again, I congratulate you for coming forward to participate in the Youth Parliament. I look forward to listening to the debate on the topics you have chosen. I also believe they are topical. And I encourage you, most importantly, to continue to be involved. The country needs to hear from you young people. Thank you all very much.
I'm privileged as the Speaker of the Cayman Islands Legislative Assembly to read the Commonwealth Day message of Her Majesty the Queen, Head of the Commonwealth, themed towards a common future. And I quote, "We all have reason to give thanks for the numerous ways in which our lives are enriched when we learn from others. Through exchanging ideas and seeing life from other perspectives, we grow in understanding and work more collaboratively towards a common future. There is a very special value in the insights we gain through the Commonwealth connection. Shared inheritances help us overcome difference so that diversity is a cause for celebration rather than division. We shall see this in action at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which takes place in the United Kingdom next month, bringing together young people, business, and civil society from across the Commonwealth. These gatherings are themselves fine examples of how consensus and commitment can help to create a future that is fairer, more secure, more prosperous, and sustainable. Having enjoyed the warm hospitality of so many Commonwealth countries over the years, I look forward to the pleasure of welcoming the leaders of our family of 53 nations to my homes in London and Windsor. Sport also contributes to building peace and development. The excitement and positive potential of friendly rivalry will be on display next month as we enjoy the Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast, Australia. Contributing to the success of the Games, alongside athletes and officials, will be thousands of volunteers. Voluntary effort by people working as individuals, in groups, or through larger associations is so often what shapes the Commonwealth and all our communities. By pledging to serve the common good in new ways, we can ensure that the Commonwealth continues to grow in scope and stature, to have an even greater impact on people's lives today and for future generations." End of quote. I thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I have a prepared speech, but one of the joys of speaking last is that by the time you get to the mic, everything that you had written down to say, those who spoke before you have already said. So I shall discard this. I just want to say how pleased and privileged I am, again, to be asked to open this Youth Parliament, the 11th Commonwealth Youth Parliament, on this Commonwealth Day. I'm always impressed with the performance of the young people who come, who work so hard and deliver well beyond, I think, expectations. As the Speaker has said, the role of an MLA, of a representative, is much more than most people believe. For, quite frankly, most people have their lives to deal with, and they don't spend too much time listening to us arguing down here, as I've heard many of them say. But actually, the role that MLAs play in deciding policy, in debating the key and critical issues which impact the country, its present, not just its future, is very, very important. I wish that when I was your age, we had had this kind of an opportunity. You're growing up in a very different Cayman than the one that I grew up in. That's both good and bad. But I'll tell you this, there are far more opportunities today than there were when I was your age. And while the challenges are much greater, and we worry a lot about the challenges of crime and social issues, of indiscipline, of lack of direction and ambition of so many of our young people, it's always heartening to come to an event like this and to see our young people perform at the highest possible level. I have two sons, aged 22 and 25 now, so believe me, I understand the challenges of young people growing up in this Cayman. But as I said before, I also appreciate the tremendous opportunities that there are. Clearly, you and your parents do as well, and you're seizing them with both hands. That is something those of us who are elected to represent you are so happy about and so delighted to be able to help participate in. So it's only for me now to tell you how much I look forward to listening to the keen debates. I always wondered why they took the A-levels out of high school, because were it not for A-levels, I don't think I would be here. So that's a debate I'm very interested in hearing. And I also wonder why they want to keep me from running in my district again. Because I don't live exactly in the district I represent. So again, I'm very keen to hear what you have to say about that. But I wish you all well and look forward very much to the debate today. And it is therefore my honor and privilege now to declare this 11th Commonwealth Youth Parliament for the Cayman Islands officially open. Good morning.
Madam Speaker, all rise.
This Honorable 11th Youth Parliament is now in session. I will now ask the Honorable Premier to say prayers.
Let us pray. Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech thee so to direct and prosper the deliberations of this 11th Youth Parliament of the Cayman Islands Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundations for the glory of thy name and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth II, Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, Charles, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially we pray for the youth parliamentarians participating in this youth parliament, that they may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of their high office. All this we ask for thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace, now and always. Amen.
Please be seated.
Reading of messages and announcements by the Speaker.
Before I proceed to the order of business, I crave the indulgences of the Honorable CPA, 11th Youth Parliament, to make a few words. First of all, I would like to say that it is a great honor to have been chosen as Speaker of the Legislative Assembly for the 11th Annual Youth Parliament. Participating in this year's Youth Parliament has been a real eye-opener and a wonderful experience for us as young people who have decided to join this year's Youth Parliament. As I stand here today as Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, I want to congratulate each and every one of you, youth parliamentarians, on a fantastic job. If it weren't for you and all your hard work that you have put forth these past few months, you wouldn't be seated in these seats today. It takes a lot of dedication to make sure you're at every meeting and doing what needs to be done, especially with all the schoolwork, extra classes, and sports and life in general. We may have had some ups and downs along the way, but the most important thing is the fact that we did it, and we are very pleased about what we have accomplished. The Youth Parliament is a program where young people within our island come together to highlight and discuss the problems happening in our islands based on the observation of our young eyes. This program also helps with public speaking, teamwork, and it also gives us a general knowledge of legislative issues happening throughout our islands. While learning such skill, it is preparing us for the world of work and different everyday tasks. When we have these skills, it will show us how far we have come, what we have accomplished, and how much we have grown. It is also a time to inform the government and our service providers on the thoughts and social experiences that the generation of our youths are facing. The theme for this year, 2018 Commonwealth, is towards a common future. This theme means as the world we live in changes, so must the people to be more adaptable in the new economy. However, when these changes occur, they should be able to meet all needs of our people, and most especially, the upbringing of the youths within our country. This theme goes hand in hand with what needs to be done within our islands to ensure a prosperous future for all Caymanians. The motion being brought by the young parliamentarians today are highlighting current education law and the current election law. I want you to listen attentively to what they have to say. These young people wouldn't be here debating on these topics if they didn't have a problem with them. Nowadays, society acts upon situations that were not thought about logically. When acting upon a situation, a simple question should be asked. Will it be beneficial in future reference? My advice, be a critical thinker when you're about to make a decision about a situation. Best of luck with your debates. Thank you.
Other business, private members' motions. Private members' motions number 1 of 2018, amendment to the education law and the reintroduction of A-level qualifications, to be moved by the elected member of West Bay West.
I recognize the elected member for West Bay West.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move private members' motion number 1 of 2018, amendment to the education law and reintroduction of A-level qualifications, which reads as follows. Madam Speaker, may I repeat again, please?
Sure.
I beg to move private members' motion number 1 of 2018, amendment to the education law and the reintroduction of A-level qualifications, which reads as follows. Whereas compulsory school age is defined in Education Law 2016 as age commencing on the date next following by which a child attains the age 5 years before 1st of September and ending on the date on which the child attains the age of 17 years or has met the requirements to obtain a secondary school diploma or its equivalent, whichever is the earlier or such other age bracket as may be specified by an order made under Section 11. And whereas compulsory education extends until the compulsory school age, and whereas it can be argued that an additional year of schooling will yield greater benefit to students, and whereas students who attend the government schools are required to apply for financial assistance from government in order to undertake A-level qualification at a private school, and whereas the government should recognize educational necessity for students to complete their full educational potential without the need to attend a private school. Be it therefore resolved that the government considers the amending the definition of compulsory school age with the Education Law 2016 by deleting the word 17 and inserting the word 18. Be it further resolved that the government considers reintroducing A-levels qualification within the government educational system for all Caymanians in public education so that it shall be compulsory for students other than those attending the Cayman Islands Further Education Center for the remainder of their mandated school time.
Private member motion number 1 of 2018 has been duly moved. Is there a seconder to the motion? I recognize the elected member for Georgetown South.
Madam Speaker, I beg to second private member's motion number 1 of 2018.
The motion has been duly moved and seconded. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the elected member for West Bay West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning to you and all in this chamber. Throughout the past 10 years, there have been changes to the education system of our islands, and our focus today, according to the motion, is to amend the definition of the compulsory school age as it is defined in the Education Law 2016 and reintroduce the A-level qualifications into government schools. With the Education Law, a child can obtain their secondary education by age 17, correlating to the date of their birth, or by meeting the requirements to obtain a secondary school diploma. However, as the word 17 stands, some may find it to be an age that is premature for our students to complete their secondary education and be out of high school. Throughout the past 5 years, students in our secondary public schools have improved their performance in external exams, which has led to an increase in our high school graduates. With this information, it is a great accomplishment for our secondary educational institutes in the public sector to have this increase, and at this time, I would like to acknowledge and give accreditation to the professionals who work in the education field, especially our teachers and parents who work hard to ensure our students today have better and brighter futures for tomorrow. With this being said, relating back to my statement on the overlooked consequences of our students obtaining their secondary education at age 17 and knowing our students have shown improvements in the current system, why change the age in which they obtain their secondary diplomas? It can be argued that an additional year of secondary schooling will yield greater benefits to students who wish to continue their education, especially if they continue their education on a tertiary level. Students who attend the secondary schools of John Gray High School, Clifton Hunter High School, and the Lamb E. Scott Senior High School endure a 5-year curriculum from year 7 to 11, with a transition into year 12, which is separate from the 5-year curriculum, which consists of the Cayman Islands Further Education Center, commonly known as CIFEC, the dual enrollment program at the University College of the Cayman Islands, and the A-levels qualification course at private educational institutes. Students who wish to continue their education in the dual enrollment program must have 5 passes, including math and English, in the grade range from A to C or 1 to 3, in order to qualify for admissions to a UCCI or the private institutes that offer the A-level program. If no student has the 5 passes, they will continue their final year of secondary education at CIFEC. Students who have the qualifications and choose to continue their secondary education in the dual enrollment program are then eligible to receive government funding through scholarships and grants. With the access and options to these educational institutes, their programs and funding provided by government out of our 3 islands, secondary students in Grand Cayman do not have much trouble transitioning from one institute to the next while receiving the funding they need. However, for students in Cayman Brat who attend the Layman E. Scott Senior High School are limited to such transitions, specifically with the option to continue their secondary education in the A-level program. With this motion, this is one of the reasons why we find it a need for government to consider reintroducing the A-level qualifications in our government high schools so that all our Caymanian students enrolled in our educational institutes have better and fair access to education they need and the education they deserve, not just on Grand Cayman, but on our sister islands as a whole. This direct access will not only benefit our students, but it will also benefit our public schools, for the money that invested in providing scholarships to students who choose to take up the A-level programs at private institutes can be reinvested back into our government schools and programs. With this motion and addressing the challenges our students face and changes we would like to make, we as a government and the opposition have a responsibility in the role we play, one that isn't our own, but of our people who have placed us in the seats we're in today to take into consideration all ideas, suggestions, and changes that affect our country and Caymanian people. With more points to be further discussed regarding the financing of our education, the quality of our education, and improvements that can be made, this first private member's motion is not to look back on what has been done to our education system in previous years under the control of different governments, but to reflect on and look forward in a new direction to a proper and stable education system in our secondary government high schools. With this motion, I believe this is the right step to adjusting the requirements of our education and reintroducing programs by providing better opportunities for our students with access to the tools and knowledge they need for better and brighter futures. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Georgetown South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of private member's motion number 1 of 2018, amendment of the education law and reintroduction of A-level qualifications. There are many perceptions as to this particular motion, and yes, while everyone is entitled to their own interpretations and opinions, we all have to keep one thing in mind. This motion is about the students of tomorrow's future. People may argue that an extra year of school is only stress on the student, the parents, and is just a waste of time. However, the facts behind those statements are simply biased, as an extra compulsory age for school is actually very beneficial in multiple ways, for both the student and their education goals. There is no doubt that the best investment any parent can make is through educating their child. Let us look at some facts surrounding the issue. If an extra year of compulsory graduation is added, students would be in a more robust position of getting accepted to better colleges and universities, because the extra year allows a student to be better prepared academically. And it also gives them the time to enhance study skills and time management. For instance, if they are trying to get a sports scholarship, it would give them extra time to strengthen athletic abilities. Importantly, this would expand their opportunities and cognitive skills to be better prepared for the working environment. Madam Speaker, it doesn't just stop there. With more students pursuing university, it becomes essential for high schools to maximize the training to help the success of their students. Some students do not mature as quickly as they should within the time frame that they're given within high school. There are some who do not take their studies as serious as they should in order to meet the requirements of a high school education. Being able to participate in a high school curriculum is the expectation that students will have the ability to become a more mature image. That in itself speaks volumes for that student, and without a doubt, that extra year of A-levels will assist in this happening. Madam Speaker, some of my constituents have told me that their experience within the public school system has been rewarding educationally. Their perception is that the public school system allows all children to have a chance at learning and growing if they can't afford the private schools. I have also been told that private schools require the students to take a humanities subject in order to enter such schools. Realistically, some students might not want to pursue a career in the field of humanities. So, if they were to enter the private school system, they would be wasting their time on a subject that wouldn't benefit them or their future career. Among the students enrolled in university, Madam Speaker, who do you think reported to have higher grades? Of course, no other than the students who were enrolled in the extra year. According to the Journal of Education Research, through a survey conducted, it is reflected that students who took an extra year of school have high satisfaction with the program and do not transfer out of their programs compared to those that didn't take an extra year of school. However, there is more. There is also a more likely chance that they will be in full-time work or study, spend less time in unemployment, and earn more money than those who do not. Finally, Madam Speaker, despite those who feel that an extra year of school would be a bad idea, making the compulsory age for high school years to be mandatory from 17 to 18 will enhance the knowledge of our youth, increase their thinking skills, and it will expand their chances of gaining further education, whereby they will be readily available and responsible to enter the workforce. It is only the time and effort put into the work of a student that will decide their capabilities for their future education and the career path. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the honorable leader of our position.
Madam Speaker, thank you for allowing me the privilege to speak in this honorable House. Madam Speaker, as we look around society today, people take the comedians more seriously and the politicians as a joke. This motion is a clear example of how the government is showing insignificant knowledge of their own educational system. As of right now, high school students have 4 options: completing their final year of high school at SciFec, do an A-level program at A-level program at Cayman Prep or St. Ignatius, or enroll in UCCI under dual enrollment, and a further option of doing a dual enrollment overseas. And just to elaborate a bit on dual enrollment, this program allows students who are eligible to study locally or abroad while still meeting the secondary criteria. The options given relate to the opportunities for students to make formal decisions about their future and what path they wish to go on a personal basis. Without a doubt, if you want the best out of a student, allow them to choose their own syllabus and career path. And yes, maybe, while some will say A-levels will better prepare students to transition into universities, there are many students who have the ability to transfer into universities without having to go through the A-level program. At the moment, public high schools, such as John Gray, has a program called GAP, which stands for Goal Accelerated Program. This allows students who are capable to do some CCSE subjects in year 9, and in year 10 and year 11, they move on to do an A-level subject. Many of the GAP students feel they are ready to tackle university at a mature age of 17. Why should the government implement A-levels when the students are ready to tackle university? According to the motion presented, the education law states that compulsory school age is defined as age commencing on the next date following that which a child attains the age of 5 before the 1st of September and ending on the date on which a child attains the age of 17 or has met the requirement to obtain a secondary school diploma or its equivalent. My 2 cents for what it's worth, Madam Speaker, is that after spending those numbers of years from primary school to high school, students would have an idea of where they want to move on next. And they will have a choice of whether or not A-levels is right for them for university or overseas. Who knows? Maybe some may have to do pre-college, but whatever the case, they still have the opportunity to make their own choice. Madam Speaker, having said that, please allow me to say this. We are a British territory, but the big picture is that our tertiary education are geared towards the American system. And although we are a British territory, we are without a doubt more influenced by the United States. Madam Speaker, the majority of students who apply to the Educational Council for funding to study abroad are going to the United States or Canada. And even though A-level qualifications can sometimes be transferred to credit value, they essentially have less value in Canada and the United States than in Britain, and therefore, in my opinion, be a waste of time. Madam Speaker, I ask the government these 2 questions. Is every child the same? Does every child have the same level of education? No, the mind is the alpha and omega. Implementing mandatory options will set limits for students. The A-level system is known as extremely hard and filled with heavy workload. In fact, this is what administrators preach to the students before they even apply. What happens to those who fail year 12? Are they removed and placed in CIFEC, or does the government pay for them to continue to fail until the age of 18? At that point, no longer have confidence levels been shattered, but students will have wasted another year of their life with the work that they are not cut out to do. At the moment, there's a lack of Caymanians in the working environment, and implementing this law, I strongly believe that this will not enhance Caymanians being able to get jobs in the workforce. The government appears to be speaking from both sides of their mouth. They have complained that it's expensive to keep an A-level program in the public schools, while at the same time, they've also complained about have to pay the private schools for the same A-level program. Does the government know what they really want? Their introduction of A-level system program is going to back to square one financially. Acknowledging the faults in the system now is futile. Changing it yet again would cause even more confusion than what we already have, and we'll have students falling through the cracks. The government fails to admit the fact that not every student wants to do an A-level program. If they want to go straight into a degree, why waste 2 years of doing an A-levels program when students can start their journey onto achieving an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, or maybe even a master's? Madam Speaker, not everyone is a genius or academically inclined. Therefore, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will believe its entire life that it's stupid. However, if you judge a fish by its ability to swim, there is no limit to what it can be achieved. Therefore, forcing students to do an A-level program to complete secondary education at age 18 shows that the government has failed to value differences in the way people learn. The educational process may then suppress institutions, creativity, and one's sense of identity. Madam Speaker, public education has come a long way and is not totally broken. We still have students who are escalating into their educational future without the A-levels program and have gone into universities and done extremely well. Getting a tertiary education depends on whether or not the student wants to learn. It's based on the individual. The diagnosis is wrong, and implementing A-levels are wrong. When you take the free will out of education, it turns into schooling. And while the idea of government providing its own affordable A-level program is good for the students who wish to go through the system, we, the opposition, do not believe in making it mandatory for all students. Is it sensible, nor is it prudent to keep students in high school till the age of 18. If the government wants to reintroduce the A-level program, do so, but make it optional rather than mandatory. My suggestion would be to do a referendum with the students to get their feedback on their thoughts as to them moving forward with their future. And, Madam Speaker, as you can see, the opposition is willing to give solutions to the problem, not only criticism. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Minister of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture, and Lands.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. I'm here to give my support to the proposal brought upon the House today. Madam Speaker, some may argue that adding 1 more year of compulsory education would cost more money that would not show significant improvement. However, my colleague, the Minister of Finance, will address the positive financial impacts that this motion will have for our islands. Furthermore, I will explain the positive education impact that this motion will bring to the Caymanian students. Madam Speaker, adding 1 more year of compulsory education has many benefits. By adding 1 more year, you would in effect be creating the opportunity for students to actually complete an associate's degree or A-levels program, which would additionally allow more resets at CIFEC and further focus on students. This proposal would therefore allow students to complete more BTech level subjects, which in turn allows students to study more technical qualifications that align them better for scholarships. Madam Speaker, more education allows young people to develop greater skills, which will provide them with more options when they do leave education. It has been shown many times that those people who have more education find jobs easier and are more likely to find work that is satisfying. Extra education for young people also has a positive effect for the economy of a country. The impact of longer education is higher levels of productivity and earnings in later years. Raising the leaving age to 18, there will be a significant impact on grades. The previous increase in the school leaving age in England by a year in 1972 resulted in an improvement worth 1 grade higher in 2 subjects. The result is many fewer people leaving school with no qualifications. Madam Speaker, according to the Government of the United Kingdom, in their assessment of changes they made between A-levels and GCSEs in 2012, they stated that more and more universities were requiring a passing A-star grade in order to attend their schools. As such, reintroducing A-levels into the public school system would prepare students for the ever-changing demands and competitiveness of tertiary education. Madam Speaker, if more people continue at school until 18, more people will be eligible to enter university or other forms of tertiary education. Some students in the Cayman Islands take a gap year either because they are not ready or because they are not of age to attend their school they want to attend. By adding 1 more year of compulsory education, it would be the solution to this inconvenience of a gap year. Madam Speaker, according to the UK newspaper, The Telegraph, changes in the A-level system that were made were of noticeable change in the amount of coursework. The work was very much reduced, yet still contained practically work that was considered important to subjects such as sciences. Additionally, according to a report by the London Economic Organization, men with A-levels at grade A to C achieved a significant earnings premium over 10% compared to those without. This means that those who take A-level course and obtain a relatively average score earned more than 10% than those who did not. This is tremendous news for the youth in Cayman, since evidence such as this would empower the naysayers to recognize the importance of taking these A-level courses. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, the introduction of A-levels into the public schools and the additional year of school would prepare the students for the work in universities and will also prepare the students to have a head start when entering the increasingly competitive fields of tertiary education. I would like to remind this House that many jobs or employers need or require you to have an associate's or A-levels qualification, and most of the time in order to be promoted in your workplace. As a result of these realities, the government has recognized the importance of such a system and has put forward this motion to this honorable House, which I gladly support. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Savannah.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to stand here and speak on behalf of the opposition. There's to take into consideration that the government really does know what they're speaking about the educational system here in the Cayman Islands. If they were fully aware, they wouldn't try to implement such a law or regulation because there is not enough space, there is not enough capacity for the students in the Cayman Islands government schools already. Physical space, Madam Speaker, right now the John Gray High School campus has a maximum capacity of 600 students, and we're currently serving 1,200 students. Almost more than double the amount that safety can handle. With roughly 200 students in each year, adding 2 more years of studies will increase it by 400 students. Where are these children going, Madam Speaker? On the roof? Not only speaking on space, but the student-to-teacher ratio is exceeding the law according to the feedback given to the opposition. This is not only an issue of comfort, but a hazard in case of fire and other emergencies. If there's an additional 2 years added on to the studies for children, where are they supposed to go? The A-levels, as we all know it, can make you receive high standards for academic preparation. As you know, A-level courses are recognized around the world for their academic rigor and the courses that can thoroughly prepare students for the higher education. But is it really for everyone, as they don't offer every course a child would like to pursue? As a youth's education is one of the most important aspects of our lives, we must ensure that we get it right. Even in the UK, where A-level is king, there's a discussion of reform. They are thinking ahead. Why must we be caught up with implementing programs that others are reforming and discarding? Former Prime Minister Tony Blair said in similar discussion that more schools should offer the IB International Baccalaureate program. A-level programs are not without their problems, where students are coached to pass exams rather than to understand the content. The Thomason Report of 2007 investigated the fixing of A-level results under similar circumstances. Madam Speaker, A-level is not the panacea for our education system. Implementing A-levels to be mandatory will come with a significant majority of fees, starting from new teachers with higher qualifications, new facilities, and a bigger budget. The faculty needed to teach higher A-level content is on a higher pay scale. The government can't even afford resources for the schools right now. Schools are lacking simple resources, starting with children having to share one book between 3. Where is this money coming from, Madam Speaker? Where is this money coming from if they can't even complete the John Gray High School campus, which they've been building over time? While the idea of the government providing its own affordable A-level program for its students who actually want to go through the system is good, we, the opposition, believe that making it mandatory for all students isn't appropriate and efficient. Removing the middle school stage of secondary education not only removed an important bridging period from primary to high school, but also clashed age groups of children and banded them together. Emotional, physical, and mental maturity levels of these students do not match. And now the government wants to add on 2 years, widen the age range, 10-year-olds with 18-year-olds. These are pubescent children having daily associations with legal adults. And yes, Madam Speaker, you might say that in daily life these interactions occur, but that is everyday life. That is not mandatory schooling enforced by law. Finally, Madam Speaker, on policy changes, policy advisors and consultants, are we about to make the same changes based on recommendations from similar advisors, the ones who advise on the now derelict, dangerous new John Gray High School building, lying idle after millions upon millions of dollars spent? Madam Speaker, I would hope not. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for East End.
Madam Speaker, I rise in disagreements to the government's motion to make A-level mandatory for students. Currently, our education system provides various options for our students. One of the options are attending UCCI to obtain an associate's degree. Madam Speaker, this grants students the opportunity to develop necessary credentials to not only gain but enhance employment opportunities. Also, they experience life at local university before taking on university abroad. Whilst I do acknowledge A-levels may do the same, not every student will have the capacity to attend a mandatory course for more than 2 years with the usual 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. structure. I say this because not every student is financially well off and may need to start work earlier than most. Attending UCCI will give students the flexibility to work whilst attending school. I'd like to highlight, if the motion were to implement, this would ignore the lower class students who may need to provide for themselves. Another option is A-levels, which gives students an opportunity to become familiar with the UK system if they would like to further their studies in England. Madam Speaker, I'd like to bring to your attention to the fact that A-levels are not accredited by universities in the US, quite like the UK. Therefore, implementing this motion would indirectly force students who would like to further their studies in the US to attend university in the UK, What the government needs to realize is that students who wish to further their studies away do not want to be subject to studying in England only. The other option is SciFEC. This option allows the chance for the students as they give a second chance for the students as they are given another opportunity to improve what they have done in high school. This gives them more time to mature and become more responsible students. They would have also had the opportunity to gain work experience, which often leads to extended or permanent employment. We acknowledge that the government is keeping this option open. Madam Speaker, the wording of the government's motion is quite vague and misleading because it states one thing while their arguments are saying another. I find this to be quite alarming for all of us to see. They can't even prepare a proper motion, but are eager to lead our education system for our students. Madam Speaker, it is very dangerous for the government to keep changing the education system based on what they think without consulting the education experts. Madam Speaker, if this motion is implemented, what will happen to the students who does not meet the A-level criteria but are exceeding SciFEC requirements? Who are we to forget about that class? If this is what the government is proposing to do, aren't our current education system okay? Our current education system caters to all types of students, those who wish to study at UCCI with the flexibility of working, or those who wish to attend A-levels and study in the UK, and those who wish to retake exams. Madam Speaker, why are they trying to go from a flexible system to another standard system? With that being said, I strongly rise in disagreement to the motion. This is not to say we don't believe that our students are not intelligent enough for A-levels, or to say that SciFEC is for those who cannot handle academic rigor. We are simply stating that everyone already knows every single individual is different in many ways, and we cannot keep comparing our students like they are science experiments. Nonetheless, the government continues to pretend as if these lives we are tampering with are not our own. Every change you make in the system is just more for the community to adjust to, and we feel like it's a waste of time to even entertain that idea. Madam Speaker, as the system stands, it allows for growth of our students in ways that best suit them as individuals. And while it may have its flaws and by no means is perfect, it is designed with all of our students in mind. The goal is to allow the students to branch out and find their place in the world, with the last year of education being a stepping stone. The standards of our high schools are lower than international standards, yet the government suddenly expects to shove our students into rigorous academic material that they haven't been prepared for at all. 56% of the UK students are struggling to pass maths and English, whereas the Caymanian number can't even hit 50. We need to invest in our students enough to raise the expectations in our schools so that they can feel confident enough in themselves to continue through life. Rather than set them up for failure with mandatory A-levels, let us focus on improving the quality of the achievements as they might leave year 11. The money that we would be putting into teaching facilities and exams for A-levels could be put to other use in tutoring, counseling, and early intervention within schools for students who appear to be lost. We need to stop comparing students and labeling them as good and bad or smart and stupid. Instead, we need to emphasize that all students are equal. They have their strengths and their weaknesses. This may seem far from the topic, Madam Speaker, but I assure you, grooming our young people to believe that they are worth and valuable will have a great effect on their effort in achievement in the school. What the government is proposing will do quite the opposite by shattering the confidence and placing students in the same box. Thanks, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Minister of Finance, Economic Development.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. I'm here to talk about the importance of secondary education on the economy, as well as changing the compulsory age from 17 years to 18 years, and implementing a government A-levels program. Madam Speaker, secondary education can bring significant benefits to society, not only through higher employment opportunities and income, but also via enhanced skills, social status, and access to networks. Madam Speaker, mandating education by just 1 year increased adult income and substantially decreased the likelihood of being below the poverty line or doing a manual occupation. Madam Speaker, a study was done by the United Nations Educational, Cultural, and Scientific Organization and the Organization for Economic Development and Cooperation. It showed that in the 1960s, Chile had a GDP per capita of about $4,000 a year and had a mandatory education of about 6.19 years. This all changed in the early 2000s when the GDP per capita was $7,000 and the mandatory education rose to 10 years. Madam Speaker, this is an economic trend. It shows that longer secondary education may have accounted for 0.5% of annual growth rates. Longer secondary education is possible, Madam Speaker. What I'm saying is about space. We make a $45 million a year surplus. We can buy portables. I mean, they're not the best, but they're usable, they're feasible. We can buy them for $10,000 to $50,000 depending on the square foot. Madam Speaker, we can provide space for these kids. We can house 2,281 students. The UK spends about 13% of their whole entire budget on education, while we spend 17%, yet the UK has a government A-levels program. Why is this? Can't we use $22 million of the $45 million surplus that we have, along with the $899,000 we have from granted scholarships to private schools, and conjoin them? Madam Speaker, what I'm saying here is that longer secondary education can decrease criminal activities. I'm not talking about speeding or fines. I'm talking about robberies, capital crimes, gun violence. If you're better educated on the consequences of these things, you're less likely to participate in them. If you're less likely to participate, you do not have to spend as much on the criminal justice spending. Madam Speaker, longer secondary education can affect political outcomes, not through knowledge acquired in civics and social science, as well as it allows for skepticism to pick the right leader to run our country. Madam Speaker, we need a government A-levels program because we're helping out the B students, the students that didn't get a scholarship to go to prep or Catholic. We're helping out the middle class. Those B+ students, they're the middle class. They're the ones that are running the economy, not the top class, the middle class. So if we had 20 portable classrooms, we can house all of them. We can do it under $3 million. I'm saying this is economically feasible. This is what we should do because these students need a government A-levels program. The studies show that when people get longer secondary education, this affects political outcomes. And it leads to national economies tending to grow faster. And we're one of the highest or most domestic financial centers in the world. And we can do this, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Minister of Commerce, Planning, and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to offer a contribution to the private member's motion number 1 of 2018. Erasmus once said, "The main hope of a nation lies in the proper education of its youth." As a government, we derive from this that the education of the youth in the Cayman Islands is of utmost importance and vital to the future development of our country. One of the concerns can be found within the education law that compulsory school age is 18, and that A-levels, which were cut more than a decade ago from public schools, can only be taken privately. Madam Speaker, we believe that students at public schools should have options and therefore complete their A-levels without the need of going to a private school. We believe there must be a change for our future. We believe that the age should be raised to 18. This will ensure the stability of education amongst our youths. Our future makes its bed in the proper education of our youths. Madam Speaker, we will tackle youth unemployment. Youth unemployment in the Cayman Islands is higher than the worldwide average. In fact, according to the International Labour Organization, 13.8% of Caymanians aged 18 to 24 are out of work. Are we going to let this rise? Instead of allowing the unemployment level to rise, let's rise the age of leaving school before it's too late. Our proposals would seek to tackle the problem of young people leaving school without enough employability skills they need for the working world. Madam Speaker, our economy is growing. However, is our education level keeping pace with our level of development? In other words, it's both a cost and an investment by extending the age to 18. We might aspire to a more educated society, but unless we prepare our young people for the jobs that development brings by raising the age to 18, then the only thing that'll be raising is the number of work permits, which is already at a record high of nearly half the population. Madam Speaker, our eyes won't lie. And sure enough, they have witnessed the rise in unemployment and social problems, such as gangs, crime, and violence. Now, Madam Speaker, we believe a part of the solution to this catastrophe will be rising the school leaving age. Extending the school age might well as be a good thing, as long as the schools, colleges, and training schemes are up to producing the skilled workers needed. If young people leave school with not enough qualifications and struggle to find work, there is an increased risk of social problems, such as crime and violence. Education and training can help improve the motivation and skill of young workers. While access to higher education has exploded, successive governments have failed to provide vocational education and apprenticeships of sufficient quality to inspire the best academic. The success of this policy depends on the equal and choice of education and training schemes. If there is little availability choice for vocational schools, non-academic students may find themselves forced to do A-levels against their will. This could have negative consequences for others who are more interested in learning. So, Madam Speaker, we are not just suggesting the age to be extended to include just A-levels, but vocational training and apprenticeship for Cayman's children to find their niche in the rising global economy. In 2017, Chancellor George Osborne announced that North Ireland would be designated as Special Enterprise Zone. Rising the school age, leaving up to 18, is an economic and social no-brainer, he says. This does not mean necessarily that everyone up to 18 of age has to study for A-levels. In a place like Derry, which suffers badly from youth unemployment, it might mean most kids staying on at home, learning up to skills with practice, training. There, Madam Speaker, we have precedent. The present school age makes it a disadvantage for students who have been transferred from different countries. I have witnessed students who have been disadvantaged because they have to skip a grade 9, a foundational year, which has become the cause of our present educational law. raising the limit which accommodates students from other jurisdictions and allow them a better chance of realizing their own potential, as our own Commonwealth theme suggests, towards a common future. Madam Speaker, in closing, we cannot afford to neglect those young people who currently leave school at age 17 unprepared for the rigor and demands of life in this 21st century. We have to make a change. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Newlands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, with all due respect to the government, I cannot agree with the private member's motion number 1 of 2018. Amendment to the education law and the reintroduction of A-levels qualification, which speaks to making A-level mandatory for public school students. It is my view that the government has minimal knowledge of its own education system. Right now, students have 3 choices regarding their final year of high school. Those being the continuation of their education through CIFEC, enrolling into the A-levels program at St. Ignatius Catholic or Cayman Prep School, enrolling into the A-level program at St. Ignatius Catholic or Cayman Prep Schools, or enrolling at UCCI under the dual enrollment program. Of course, being able to fit into either one of those 3 academic areas depends on a student grade point average, GPA. Madam Speaker, A-levels are not an ABC task. It is more of what I would term as students being set up to fail. With that being said, the government needs to understand that A-levels are not meant for all students. Everyone is different, as their aspirations are on different levels in order to grasp the education they desire. Such program is reflected to be extremely hard and filled with heavy workloads. In fact, this is what they preach to students before they even apply. With that in mind, let us think and ask ourselves a few questions. What happened to those who fail? Are they removed and placed in CIFEC? Or will the government pay for them to continue fail until they are out of school? At this point, not only have confidence levels been shattered, but students will have wasted years of their life struggling with work they were not cut out to do. And at the end, when all is said and done, there is still the fear of failure. Certainly, such failure will not in any way motivate a student to want to continue their education, especially if they were not strong mind to do so. If the government has money to buy portables, why not build schools? While the idea of the government providing its own affordable A-level program for its students who actually wish to go through the system is good, I do not believe making it mandatory for all students is a smart move. Students should be given options. After all, it's about how they feel about themselves and their career paths. We are truly blessed considering we live in a community where our education system is one of the best. It can compete with many jurisdictions and is available for all children, whether it is through the public schools or the private schools. Therefore, there should be no excuse why any student cannot attain the best education has to offer. Madam Speaker, we cannot forget the fact that parents do have a choice when choosing the education route of their children. Some may wish to have their children move on and continue to pursue their education overseas. And whether it is the British system or the American system, as I said, it is their choice. The dual enrollment program gives such options, even though the A-level program is ideal for those wishing to follow the British-based higher level education system. A prime example of this is the Truman Bodden Law School, which is accredited to Liverpool University in the United Kingdom. Madam Speaker, the majority of students who apply to the Education Council for funding for overseas scholarship are going to the United States. Unfortunately, most students are having a hard time obtaining a scholarship due to the fact that their A-level qualification does not give them enough credit to fall into the category of being a recipient for a scholarship. The point that I am making is, if they're not gaining the credit they deserve for an overseas scholarship, why do A-levels? And without a doubt, Students are encouraged to do the first 2 years of university at UCCI and then move into going overseas. Of course, this encouragement is done because the government would be paying much less for the student's scholarship if they attend UCCI. In this regard, I therefore feel it makes sense for students to transition to UCCI when they are 17 years old to pursue their associates instead of an extra year in high school to do A-levels. Madam Speaker, instead of looking into removing options for our people, I suggest that the government look about creating more choices regarding education and training. Special care needs to be taken with education as it is supposed to influence every child and not discourage them. Madam Speaker, as I have previously said, all students deserve options. Let us look at the big picture. Many government has sat by the wayside and ignored the fact that this paradise country that we live in is without a trade school for our children who are not academically inclined. This should not be. I say shame, shame, shame on the government for ignoring this important issue year after year. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Intelligence plus character, this is the goal of true education." He is right when he said that. And I say that to say that not everyone can be a lawyer or a doctor. There will be children who will slip through the cracks of the education if they're not given the tools to work and do what they like and get where they want to be. I therefore put it that a government with a first-class trade school, we would have less children slipping through the cracks, and we would have more intelligence plus character that would take precedence and be the goal of true education. Even if there are plumbers, electricians, mechanics, or even those who collect the garbage. Someone has to do those jobs, and it is time for those people to be recognized as important people within our society. Take this scenario into consideration, which actually took place. A teacher asked a class of students what they want to be in this world that offers various opportunities. Many stuck to the old-fashioned career path of lawyers and doctors. But one male student said he wanted to follow his father's footsteps and become a garbage man. The class made a mockery of him, and to put in injury to insult, the teacher also made a comment saying, "So why you bother coming to school?" Maybe the teacher did not mean to demotivate him. The fact is, she still shattered his confidence. So does this child have no right to becoming a garbage man? How would you feel if this was your own child? In my opinion, the teacher could have boosted his aspiration by rewording what she said, not to come across being harsh. The government should open their eyes. Matter of fact, they need to open their eyes and address this problem by building a first-class trade school to allow students to have more options along with their choices of CIFET, the A-level program, or transitioning into the University of College of Cayman Islands or the International College of Cayman Islands. Put their money where their mouth is. Madam Speaker, I can assure you that the government focuses more on making options available in school and stop trying to remove or change the ones we already have, you will see a difference in our Caymanian students. And I can also assure you that if these restrictions were put in place in their era of time as per education, some of the government members wouldn't be seated where they are right now. So Madam Speaker, the government should even be focused on making A-levels mandatory, as it is clear what needs to be done and what needs to be put. It is almost sad. We the people need to constantly give the government a piece of our mind so they can speak up and do the right thing. And it's also sad because the government see the same problems that we see. Madam Speaker, may I remind you that this is not no daycare. We need to help the young Caymanians to live a fulfilled life and let us open doors for our young people instead of closing them. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Deputy Leader of Opposition.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I rise with the opposition to make it known that I do not agree with the government's motion. Madam Speaker, the government is clearly blind to the extremely large number of students who attend the UCCI dual enrollment program yearly. Clearly, minimum knowledge of the education system is not being taken into consideration by our own government. Realistically, we cannot remove options that serve hundreds of students. Our own government wishes to get rid of this program that gives young Caymanians the opportunity to start an associate degree at roughly the age of 16. How will this be in the best interest of the future of our young Caymanians? When students leave Clifton Hunter and John Gray High School and have to make their own choices as to whether they would like to attend the UCCI dual enrollment program and start an associate degree in whatever career they desire to be, this degree can be finished in a period of 2 years. Of course, it is up to the individual himself to make this happen. Madam Speaker, this will result in 18-year-olds having half of the qualifications that are desired to enter into the working environment. When this opportunity is robbed from our young people by their own government, it reflects a very selfish act that the government wants to put in place, which will negatively impact our society. Nowadays, in the workforce, employees would rather hire a student that has an associate degree rather than an A-level certificate. There was a survey done, and the results proved that 90% of the University College of the Cayman Islands dual enrollment students is currently in their second semester. And many have said that the program has helped them with the level of closure, of knowing that they will complete their associate degree and won't have to struggle because they lack the knowledge and the qualification to either move on into the working world or to go on and do their bachelor's. Another 85% have said that the transformation from high school to a college environment is a very helpful way of filling the gap between high school, the A-level program, and then on to college. And to be pretty honest, there is also the pre-college program offered at UCCI, especially for those who did not do A-levels before transitioning. Accordingly, may feel that the A-levels program can be a waste of time, especially if an individual does do the A-level program and becomes a failure. And then they will have to spend another year with the pre-college program before being allowed to do their associates. The government of our country is clearly not thinking straight. And not allowing students to transition straight into university from high school is one less decision that our young people will have to make. A crucial decision that will affect their lives. They should have a choice as to their own career path. If students are not qualified to do the A-level program, which as we all know requires a very strict pass rate, and as I am sure the government is aware of, they will automatically be placed in the Cayman Islands Further Education Center, CIFET. Further, Madam Speaker, when students are forced into doing the A-level program just because CIFET does not offer what they desire to be in life, it will have a huge impact on the minds of the young people, discouragement. Not every student is an Einstein. We have to think outside of the box. What then happens to those who fail year 12 as far as A-levels are concerned? Are they removed and placed in CIFET due to there not being any other choice for them? Or does the government continue to pay for their failures until they reach 18 and just no longer have to be in school? This reflects a waste of time on the students' part and the government's part. Madam Speaker, the government needs to pay keen attention in this regard. This will weaken the minds of the young adults. Be realistic. Age 16 is supposed to be a turning point in the life of an individual. They're not considered adults, but at that age, we are coached to be strong-minded adults and to make sensible decisions that will lead us to greatness for our future endeavors. Madam Speaker, if our young adults are to have any sort of decision-making pertaining to their own education taken away from them at this age, it will lessen the ability of them being able to make necessary and very important decisions in their further life. And it will also reflect and fall into the lap of the government as a failure to them. Students should and must have input of decisions made according to their education goals, their own education goals, not the government's. Again, Madam Speaker, I am with this hope that the government will look into this dire important situation and really honestly take into consideration that if we fail the majority of our young Caymanians, the future of this country will be for naught. This is not about the government satisfying themselves and their own conscience. It is about doing what is best for the young people of this country, Grand Cayman, the Cayman Islands. Failure with this Failure will discourage students to even want to further their education in the future by going on to college or university. I would like the government to think and reflect on the reality of what they are proposing. Not all students are alike. Therefore, not all have the ability to move on into the A-level program and pass with flying colors, as has been proven. No doubt, when a student receives a mark of failure, this will in no way boost the confidence of a student and only portrays that image of negativity. So, why should the government take away a choice for students to move straight into college or university? It could be a choice where they may actually succeed and feel more self-motivated and comfortable and do wonders while aspiring to do their educational choices and their goals. Again, the government needs to think outside of the box and cater to all students as per their own choices. Madam Speaker, in regards to the statement that the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Development just made about being able to provide space so easily in schools, why isn't the issue already fixed? Also, in regards to what the Honorable Minister of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure said about the large number of gangs and the increased number of gangs, think realistically, having students in school at age 18 will increase the number of gangs. Madam Speaker, I rest my position and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Premier.
Notes ready. Madam Speaker, I rise today in support of Private Member's Motion number 1 of 2018. Now, what I've seen from my fellow opposition members today is a clear misunderstanding of the wording of the proposal brought upon this House today. Every single opposition member without fail has stated that there will be a negative impact with removing potential opportunities for Caymanian youth. Yet to that, I asked every opposition member here today whether or not in our wording we have said anything that involved taking away opportunity. In fact, if we look at the wording of the education law right now, we can simply see that the age of compulsory education includes those students who are taking the years in UCCI. It includes those taking apprenticeships. It includes those who are in fact taking the dual enrollment. So if the if the opposition thinks that we are taking these away from the student, then they are simply both misled and potentially are inadvertently harming the potential political discourse on the education of our country's youth. Now, Madam Speaker, I also want to make note that two members of opposition have made two very contrasting opinions. One member stated that we had below international standards for education in the Cayman Islands, and another member has said that we have an excellent education system in the Cayman Islands. So to that, I want to ask the opposition, which is which? If you are to attack us, attack us. If you are to support us, support us. You cannot in one breath say we have a terrible education system, and in the other breath say we have one of the best education systems. Now, Madam Speaker, I would like to begin my debate on this motion by simply stating that the government realizes the potential impacts that this policy has on the use of the Caymanian student. Now, I want to ask this honorable House today to consider the prospect of a student in the public schooling system who would like to enter into the A-level system as it stands right now. As it stands now, if a student facilitates their required compulsory schooling within the government schools, they do not hold the ability to take the A-level system within the schooling itself. No, they have to apply to a private school within the Cayman Islands, and only to prep and Catholic. Now, this holds the position that maybe they don't even get accepted into these private schools that they want to go to. And in fact, we can see that there's an increasing competitiveness within both prep and Catholic in order to actually attend these A-level systems. So it's that I want to ask the opposition today, what other proposal do we have? If we are not to implement the A-level system, which I would like to remind the opposition was a system we had in the past, then what realistically is the solution towards the students who cannot have the space to enter into the private schooling system? Not only that, Madam Speaker, but no, the private schooling cost is extraordinarily expensive as well. I should remind the opposition here today that the private schooling in Cayman can reach costs as staggering as $18,000 a year. $18,000 a year, Madam Speaker. If the opposition truly believes that we are to enter into these private schools, that the family has to pay $18,000 a year, I want to ask the opposition whether or not they really thought through their counter-proposal to our policy today. Madam Speaker, this proposal brought upon this House today will ensure the future of the island's education and ensure prosperity for our students. Not only those who want to take the A-level system, which I would like to tell the opposition is very highly accredited in both America and Canada, contrary to what they have stated.
I recognize the Honorable Leader of Opposition.
Madam Speaker, point of elucidation.
What is your point of elucidation?
Can the Honorable Premier explain why he says we have two members that agrees with their motions, we're against them and ours, but at the same time he has someone on their government agreeing with us? And I also, that's called a point of order, because if it was the A-level system was in schools before, it was clearly failing and you guys took it out, and now you want to reintroduce it, which shows that you are clearly confused on your end of the part.
Honorable member, do you give way?
Yes. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Leader of Opposition has stated that it was potentially our fault that we removed the A-level system decades ago from our system, and that it is our fault that we are to try and implement it again. But to that I ask, if the government makes a mistake, is it not the government's fault to also recognize that they should fix the mistakes that they have made? If we were to continue ahead and to have never stated that we have made a mistake and we intend to fix it, then the opposition has misled themselves and the public as to the job of the government. Now, multiple members of the opposition in response to our motion today have stressed the lack of opportunities that would come about as to this motion. But as I clearly stated previously, we are not removing those opportunities for students. We are in fact giving the students additional opportunities throughout the A-level system. Furthermore, those students who they believe are not qualified or eligible to do the A-level system can in fact go towards the Cayman Islands Further Education Center. In fact, specifically in the wording of the motion today, we have made the exemption towards those students who want to go to SciFec. We made the exemption towards those so that the students who do not feel eligible to take the A-levels qualification do not feel compelled to do so, that they can in fact go towards the Cayman Islands Further Education Center. So to state that every single child in the Cayman Islands today in the public schooling system would have to go to do the A-level system, then to that I ask the opposition to consider the actual motion presented upon this House today.
I recognize the elected member for East End.
Madam Speaker, I would like to implement a point of elucidation.
Okay. Honorable member, do you give way?
Yes.
Okay. Continue.
I would like to ask, where in his motion is it stated that he gives way to the students for UCCI? I only see the students for SciFec, but he did say that he includes that. So where in his motion does it state that?
To that, I would like to respond to the opposition member by stating that in the proposal itself, it does make specific mention towards the Cayman Islands for the Education Center. That is true. However, if they look at the first whereas where it states compulsory age, it does take a section away from the Education Law, Revision 2016, I should say, and say that specifically in the Education Law Revision 2016 that the compulsory school age extends to those who enter into the UCCI program via both vocational and also in addition to the dual enrollment program. So therefore, in effect, if they were to read this motion clearly, they would recognize that both those students attending UCCI, those students attending SciFec, would be exempt from this motion brought here today. Now, I asked the opposition members, all of them included, if there's any other question that they would like answered right now, because as I see it right now, they like making questions on the spot without any further research or any further potential knowledge of our motion here today. So if they want to ask questions to truly understand the motion brought upon this House today, I ask you and urge you to read the motion carefully. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, I would like to end my speech with a quote from Nelson Mandela, who said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. If we enhance the education of our youth today, we will in effect enhance the Cayman Islands for the future. Cayman should look to the future. But in order to truly look to the future, we must recognize our past. And if we have shown to have had this program available to the Caymanians of past generations, then we should recognize that anything less than to offer the greatest potential to the Caymanian youth today would be a disservice to not only the Caymanian constituents of which we are here to represent, but the Caymanians of future generations to come. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Newlands.
In regards to what he said?
No, nothing.
Can I say that?
No. Does any other member wish to speak? If no other member wishes to speak, I will ask the mover of the motion to exercise her right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, what a kind of debate this was. It was very interesting to hear both sides argue their points and their views. But before I continue with Before I start my rebuttal, I'd like to speak on the opposition has today. I find it that for a majority of their points, they were against us. And as the leaders of this country, they mainly focus on putting us down as the government trying to put something forward instead of work together and make suggestions. They keep saying, oh, we disagree with this, we disagree with that, why do we keep going back to this, why do we keep going back to that? But they themselves have not put forward any ideas themselves as to what we can do to improve our motion today. Also, the members of opposition have specified and expressed that we, the government, do not know what we're talking about. We, the government, do not know the system as it stands right now. And for me personally, I know when I'm speaking. You cannot speak, I'm sorry.
Yes, I can.
No. My reply is my right to reply right now.
I can speak. I can speak.
I recognize the Honorable Leader of Opposition.
I'd like to call a point of order on her statement. I'd like her to withdraw the statement that we did not give options to what you guys can do, because we clearly stated trading schools and other further options.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Leader of the Opposition, for bringing that to my attention. That one little option I put forward went over my head because the majority of the conversation today was mostly against us, instead of putting things forward. But I acknowledge that reply. With that being said,
continue.
With that being said, the opposition has expressed that we, the government, are not aware of our own system as it stands. For me personally, I do. I have been through the system, even when George Hicks was still in place, to when the schools are combined from year 7 to 11 to participate in the dual enrollment program and all such things. Where the opposition is coming from, whereas they state that they believe that we are taking out the option for students to study at UCCI for their associates. This I can understand because in our motion, it doesn't really specify or clarify to say that we are taking out or it will still remain. However, the introduction to A-level programs can benefit to us and the government because as it stands right now, why is it that when our students exit the 5-year curriculum from year 11, going to year 12, and if those students who choose to go to do their A-levels at the Cayman Prep High School and Kappa High School, why is it that they can't stay within our system and complete their studies instead of going to a new system? The opposition has expressed that we are setting up our students for failure. With this, they need to take into consideration that the government public high school system is different from the private high school system. So that change from one school to the next can affect on that. And from what I've known and heard from experience of students who came from the public school system and went to the private school system, they have to adapt to new learning abilities from the teachers and also to fit in with the social class of the students that attend Cayman Prep in high school. All students that attend government high schools come from middle class or low class families. Students that attend the private schools come from high wealthy class families. And they like to pinpoint on our students and degrade them and put them down. So those are two aspects that come into place. We're adjusting to a new system of teachers and also adjusting to a new system of students. This is why I think it'd be a good idea for us to bring back the A-levels back to our school so our students can be more comfortable with a system they know so they can continue with their studies and be better equipped to excel in the future. Also with this, right now on average, at most $1 million is invested in scholarships for students who choose to do the dual enrollment program in year 12 to do A-levels, but not also for dual enrollment students, but for students who wish to pursue A-levels out of the school. And with this, I have a copy of a scholarships booklet for local scholarships. And here it states from our government, or from the Ministry of Education, that those year 11 John Gray High School, Clifton Hunter High School, and Lehman Scott High School students wish to apply for A-level studies only, beginning in fall 2018, must also complete this application process. But also above it also is open to any other students.
I recognize the Honorable Deputy Leader of Opposition.
Madam Speaker, I would like to call a point of elucidation.
Okay, what's your point of elucidation?
In regards to what she said about them having to move from public to private school and having to struggle to get accustomed to the environment and the different change in workload. In reality, our students will have to go off to university and college, so we'll have to adjust to different circumstances.
Continue with your speech.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Representative for Newlands. As I said before, I know what I'm talking about because I've been through the system, and I'll appreciate if I can speak what I have to say so that you can understand where I'm coming from. In 2016, I was a CARICOM scholarship recipient where I represented Cayman in Calgary, Alberta, in Canada at Mount Royal University. There is where I completed my associate's degree. I've transitioned from here to over there, and I've gotten experience on schooling overseas as compared to here. Now, based on my experience, it was not much different compared to my studies at UCCI. Now this, however, with the change from the government school to the private school, and with the change from completing secondary education to tertiary education overseas, relates back to the extended age from 17 to 18. As the system stands now, opposition members have mentioned a GAP program for students in the high schools. When I was in year 10, I was part of a set of students who did their exams a year early. Whereas in the old system, when it was primary school, middle school, and high school, students in the high school would start from years 10 to year 12. They had 2.5 years to prepare for their final exams. However, when the system changed and the years were combined, for those of us who entered that program and their studies in year 10 only had a couple months to prepare for exams. And to be quite honest with you, in that year, I did not perform as well as I was expected to. Reason being because I chose not to. I looked at the system as it stood and thought it was crazy for me to be forced to learn materials that I did not understand within a period gap of a couple months compared to learning it from 2.5 years. With this age of from 17 to 18, it will help us to better prepare our students to learn the material they need to know instead of just knowing it to pass. It will also give us time to mold them into better students so that when they transition over to UCCI, they can handle the education over there. Because when I went there for the dual enrollment program, professors and teachers complained that the students that we sent over were not mature enough to handle, to sit in class and learn. With the A-level programs, reducing it back into our government schools, the money that we would use to give the private schools to teach our students can be reinvested back into our schools so that we can provide better opportunities and better programs for all of our students, not just those who excel well. The opposition members have expressed that there are students who slip through the cracks. We all know this, and we, the government, are trying our best to ensure that we put programs in for all of our students. But with that being said, it is not our fault 100% why our students slip through the cracks. It is the parents, because the parents have responsibility to send their children to school to learn, not for a daycare program. With that being said, again, this is where I'm getting frustrated because the opposition throughout this whole debate has kept on attacking and attacking and attacking, and did minimum and put minimum points forward as to how we can make changes and do better with our programs and schoolings. With the age from 17 to 18, to me, this is what I agree with personally, because right now, as it stands in our schooling systems, it is great that we can push our students forward, that they can excel well and do well. But at the same time, we are rushing our students. When our students complete their high school education, and if they choose to study at GCI so they can go overseas to Canada or the US, or if they choose to do A-levels and go to England, when they go out of our country, they're not properly prepared for what's out there internationally. Our students have to adjust to a new system and a new country, new culture. So with that, if we were to exchange the gap from 17 to 18, we'll give our students a better chance to better prepare themselves to handle what's out there, so that they can excel well and do well in what they choose to do. With that being said, with what is proposed, the opposition is welcome to bring forward another motion suggesting a way on how we can approach the points made today. However, I think that right now, as current government standing, we were accused of changing the current system as it stands now. We, the current government, stand to have no control throughout the past decade or a couple of years of new systems that were put in place today.
I recognize the Leader of Opposition.
Point of elucidation. Can she please clarify? Earlier she said that they should have A-levels in public schools because they are familiar with it, but now she's saying that they should be accustomed to going overseas. So she's too back and forth. She wants A-levels to be in public schools, that they're familiar, but again, they want the students to adjust to other outside institutions. So why not have other A-level institutions instead of having it public school?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Leader of the Opposition. With the time being, based on what I have said, my apologies for any confusion or misconception or misleading. To refocus on the A-level programs, right now, as I said before, the government is invested at most $1 million every year to fund and provide funding to these private schools to host our government students. If we were to reintroduce the A-level program back into government schools, that money would come back into our public schools so where we can focus on our students there. From the age gap extended from 17 to 18. With that, we can have more time to mold our students to adjust, transitioning from secondary education here, whether it's through the dual program, by studying at UCCI, so that when they go off, they're better prepared to handle education on a tertiary level on international borders. I can understand where the government might have been, the opposition might have been confused.
I recognize the Honorable Deputy Leader of Opposition.
Madam Speaker, I would like to make a point of elucidation.
What is your point of elucidation?
Speaking on the age gap between 17 and 18, is the government taking into consideration bringing back middle school and high school due to 18-year-old students being in school with 11-year-old students? That is inappropriate.
Proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Representative for Newlands. Again, I appreciate if the opposition will allow me the chance to finish what I have to say, because this is getting too dragged out right now. It really is. And this is, again, my point is saying that the opposition keeps attacking us from getting what needs to be done. We need to work together to figure out our problems today to ensure that where we want to be in the future can be done. Like I said before, Madam Speaker, I have been through the system. I know the system. When the George Hitz School was taken out and Clifton Hunter was introduced and the years 7 to 11 were combined, I did not agree with that as a student. My first year in John Gray High School was year 8. And to be quite honest with you, for the first semester, every day I went to the office complaining I was sick so I could go home. Half a day early. And I caught up with my academic leader saying, "Are you really sick?" And I said, "No, I just don't like it here," because I never felt comfortable to be in that same environment with bigger students. So with what the representative for Newlands has asked, and whereas we, the government, stand, I think that going forward with this motion that we should reintroduce back our middle school years, because I personally do not agree to have our students mix from year 7 to 11 according to the age. This is also a point that I spoke of a past teacher who said on one end that the reason why that might have been done was so that the older students can assist and help the younger students in their school and education.
Excuse me, member. Your time is up.
Thanks, opposition, for letting me a chance to speak and finish what I have to say. With that being said, Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me a chance of right to reply. Please just give me one more moment. Based on what was discussed on both sides.
You have 1 more minute. You can get one more minute.
Thank you. Based on what was discussed on both sides, I understand and hear where the opposition is coming from. I do not agree with taking out what is available at UCCI, and I do agree with implementing more programs for more career options instead of finance, tourism, whatnot. That I agree with the other schools, can't remember right now at the moment. With the age gap, I think we should reconsider extending it from 17 to 18 because it'll give us more time to properly prepare our students to handle their education as they go forward through in the future. And with that, it will also be a discussion brought forward in the future with our government to bring back the middle school so that the concerns of having our younger students mix our older students can be dismissed. And as of today, I hope that in future discussion and debates, that we, the government and the opposition, will take the time to listen to each other's points of views and opinions, not fight against and put down one another, and focus on what is important, our country, our Caymanian people, and the issues that are currently present today that affect us all as a whole. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question is, be it therefore resolved that this youth parliament considers amending the definition of compulsory school age within the Education Law 2016 by deleting the word 17 and inserting the word 18. Be it further resolved that this youth parliament considers reintroducing A-level qualifications within the government educational system for all Caymanians in public education, so that it shall be compulsory for students other than those attending the Cayman Islands Further Education Center for the remainder of their mandated school time. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. No. The noes have it.
Madam Speaker, may I have a division, please?
Madam Clerk, please call the division.
Honorable Richard Weber.
Aye.
Honorable Jacqueline Bonilla Williams.
Aye.
Honorable Carolyn Reyes.
Aye.
Honorable Tasmar Dawkins.
No.
Honorable Justin Ebanks.
Aye.
Honorable Mark Plowright.
Aye.
Honorable Ashley Chin.
Aye.
Miss Janae Whitaker.
Aye.
Mr. Alejandro Whitaker.
Aye.
Honorable Rayon Porter.
No.
Miss Dana Levy.
No.
Miss Aisha Bush.
No.
Mr. David Swan.
No.
Miss Zaria Truman.
No.
Miss Diamond Chambers.
No.
The results of the division is 8 ayes and 7 noes. Private member motion number 1 of 2018, amendment to the education law and the reintroduction of A-level qualifications has passed. The House will suspend its proceedings for lunch. I will ask all members to return to the chamber promptly at 1:47 p.m.